Welcome YouTube friends and family to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So today I thought I would share with you my new Harvest Right freeze dryer. I have successfully freeze dried 3 different cycles, and I feel like I'm sort of smart enough now to share that with you. So several of you have asked me, why did you get a freeze dryer if you have a food dehydrator? What's really the difference? So here you go. If you're using a dehydrator, that is using circulated warm air, so it's using heat and air to actually remove the water from the food. So it will take 70 to 90% of the water out depending on what the food is. However, you are losing some appearance. You've all seen how things shrink, like herbs and such, or if you're doing apple slices. So it doesn't look like the original item that you put in there, number one. It stores for about a year because you're removing enough of that water to prevent bacteria and mold growth. But that's about the limit on dehydrated food. You're also losing nutrition, guys. Heat destroys nutrients. So while I still think home dehydrating is a good idea, I have 2 dehydrators. I plan to continue, especially my herbs. You're going to lose some nutrition, and you're also going to lose some flavor of your herbs. Freeze drying is a whole different animal, as I've learned. So it uses cold temperatures, and I mean really cold, like 40 below, and then a vacuum around the food, and then it will heat the food up, freeze it back, heat the food up, freeze it back to force the maximum amount of water out of the food. So when you take something out of the dehydrator, it may be brittle. When you take something out of the freeze dryer, it is literally like styrofoam. It just crumbles. It's really, really cool. But because you're removing more water and you're doing it with freezing temperatures, not heat, your food will look prettier if that's important for the item that you're preserving, but it also retains a lot more of the nutrition, which was really my biggest motivation. I also think you can do a lot more freeze drying of items successfully than dehydrating. So what can't you freeze dry? So things that are really high in fat will not freeze dry. Like you can't freeze dry butter. It just won't freeze dry. Things like honey, syrup, those things, just jams, jellies, they just turn into a goopy, sticky mess. So you cannot freeze dry that as well. But you can freeze dry a lot. So I have stocked myself up very well on some eggs. And thanks to Miss Gay over at Apron Strings, she gave me some tips and pointers. She has a couple videos where she freeze dries eggs, which I've rewatched as well. But what I'm going to do here is I am going to take a combination of store eggs and farm eggs. I am going to crack them, put them in a bowl, and each tray will hold up to 5 cups. It's awfully full. I think I'm going to do 4 cups, and I have a medium-sized Harvest Right, and I'm going to share that with you, like how to operate it, the whole thing here in just a minute. But let me get busy on some eggs, so stay tuned. So I just have the Walmart eggs, 18 eggs made exactly 4 cups. So that's what I'm going to go with. And then I'm just going to use my immersion blender, pardon me, to make sure that they're well blended. Now you may be asking yourself, why on earth are you stick blending? I'm not stick blending. Why on earth are you freeze drying eggs? Can't you just buy eggs? Well, I hope so. But this is super handy to have on the shelf because once it is freeze dried and vacuum sealed, 2 tablespoons of freeze dried eggs mixed with 2 tablespoons of milk or water will reconstitute to 1 egg. So it would be fine to use in baking. I don't particularly eat fried eggs, so it's fine for scrambled eggs. And every person that I've seen freeze dry eggs says you absolutely cannot tell the difference. And when I think of powdered eggs, it just doesn't sound good. But I'm trusting and believing in the people that have tried it because I know that they're giving an honest opinion. So that's our first 4 cups. I'm not going to keep filming this whole thing. You get the gist of what I'm doing. I always crack my eggs in a separate container before I add them. So I'm going to keep going. I have some store eggs, some farm eggs. So we'll try to keep those separated because I want to see what the difference is in how they look, because these farm eggs are really, really nice. But let's go ahead and do the next batch of 18 eggs, and I'll bring you back when we're ready to start cooling down the freeze dryer. Stay tuned. All right, guys, so this is the Harvest Right medium size freeze dryer. I chose to get the oil-free pump. You can get the regular pump, what's called a Premier pump, which requires less frequent oil changes, or the oil-free, which is what I chose. It is an additional cost, and I will go over cost shortly. I'm going to flip it on here. It takes a minute to come up, and it's going to tell you everything you need to do. It is so simple. So the cost of the medium unit right now, and guys, this is the offer today, I don't know what it will be when you watch this, is $28.95, regularly $31.95, with a free upgrade to a Premier pump. If you want the additional oil-free pump, it's $14.95. So yes, it's quite an investment, and if you don't intend to use it or you don't see a use for it, there's no reason to really have one. I've wanted one forever, but I had to really do my research and decide would I use it, and absolutely yes, I will use it. So I did also get a stainless steel table that is high weight capacity. This unit alone weighs 135 pounds. Underneath on the shelf, I have a bucket, and there's where the drain hose is, because you do have to have a way for the water after it freezes into ice if you're defrosting or just naturally defrosting. So let me hit start, and it is going to say cooling vacuum chamber, wait 15 minutes before loading trays. So I'm going to go back to my eggs and hope that I can get this all done in 15 minutes. I kind of doubt I can, but at least the freeze dryer will be ready for me. Stay tuned. 15 minutes have elapsed. I'm going to try to speak up over the noise of the freeze dryer. It's not too bad. And it says load food into freeze dryer, close drain valve. So that's a little valve back here that you simply turn. It's very simple to do, but it's very important. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Now you can pre-freeze your food. I know that I do not have enough space in my deep freeze to put 4 big trays. The medium freeze dryer holds 4 trays, the large holds 5, and I believe the small holds 3. Guys, here are, look at the color, the beautiful golden color of my farm eggs. I'm telling you, they are way more golden. So I'm going to carefully pour this in. I've decided I'm going to go 3 cups per tray so I can do all 4 trays. I just think that makes more sense. Let me just slop some. Oh my. Oh my. This one's so much heavier. Let's try to offload some of this. So that was about a cup. You can see very easy to just fill this up. simply close the door, latch it tight, hit continue, and it will tell you it's freezing. So this process is going to be over a couple days, guys. I think it takes about 30 hours. Now, I didn't put quite as deep of eggs into each tray as others have, so it may not take quite that long. But I will bring you back tomorrow to show you what the freeze-dried eggs look like, to show you how to powder them for storage, and also how I'm going to store them. So stay tuned for a 2-day video. Well, it's been 23 hours, 41 minutes, and the process is complete. So next step is to go over here to the drain valve, open it up, and it is venting here. And then, as it says, if needed, select more dry time. So let's open the door. And let me show you how beautifully these are dried. These are like styrofoam, completely dry. I am a little concerned. Let me check these and I'll bring you right back. All of our trays are good and dry, so I am going to select no defrost, because even though there's ice built up on the inside, as long as I keep the drain valve open, the pump will run for 5 minutes. This will naturally melt, and yep, I got a little bit of egg in here, so I'm gonna fetch that out to pitch. I'll have to do that off camera, and we'll get on to the next step, so stay tuned. So what is the next step? Well, let me scooch down here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to powder these eggs, which are very dry. That was a piece that I picked off the bottom that I had dribbled. So this is so dry. One of the things to know about a freeze dryer, which I did not know, but I learned very quickly, is that if you leave your freshly freeze-dried items sitting out, they will absorb moisture from the air. And guess what? Your freeze-dried will no longer be freeze-dried. So it is important that you go ahead and prep your freshly freeze-dried food. If, let's say this would have finished up in the middle of the night, I would have simply left the door closed and left it in that dry environment until I had time to work on it. So what we have here is my Instant Pot Ace blender. Some of you all are lucky enough to have, this has been washed, and I want to just make sure it's good and dry because I powdered some spinach yesterday. You're lucky to have a little more sophisticated blender, but I find that this works fine for my needs. So this makes a lot of noise, but I do want to show you what it looks like. And it has to count down. And you may need to do a little stirring. I have a little device that you can use while the blender is running, but I'll just push it down with the spatula. Oops. So let me bring you back when they're powdered and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, this is one of 4 trays. Look at this gorgeous yellow powdered egg. These are from the farm eggs, this particular tray. I was gonna keep them separated. I decided not to because I'll get the maximum flavor if I just mix them up. So I'm putting them here into a 1/2 gallon mason jar. I do want to share with you all, if you're looking for jars, don't forget to check walmart.com. I got 6 1/2 gallon jars for $12.68. It was limit 1. And although I ordered it to be shipped, I had to pick it up at the store, which is fine. and looking at comparable jars on like Amazon or even what was available after I ordered mine, I was shocked, guys, shocked. They wanted about $10 a jar, so I got $60 worth of jars for $12.68. Now, in between, I'm just gonna set my lid and ring on, but here you go, guys. And you do wanna like make sure it's not sticking to the sides of the jar, that it's nice and dry, which it is. So I'm gonna keep powdering up. Again, this was 4.5 dozen eggs, and I'll bring you back to show you what my final looks like. And then we'll get to vacuum sealing and putting an oxygen absorber in. Stay tuned. So now that we have almost a 1/2 gallon plus a wide mouth pint of eggs, I am going to vacuum seal them, and I'm also going to include a moisture absorber. So you may be wondering, like, okay, well, what are the different ways to store these? And honestly, you can do it in a Mylar bag, but to me, it doesn't really make sense. I think it would be much easier to do it out of a jar. So what I'm gonna do here, excuse my hand, this is my Food Saver vacuum that has the attachment. I am using the Food Saver wide mouth jar sealer. I will simply let it suck it down. So I think I misspoke. It's an oxygen absorber, and I think I said moisture. And there you have it. Shelf stable. Eggs are generally thought to be shelf stable for about 5 years. So I am going to put 2 oxygen absorbers in this because it is bigger. Put that down in there. And let me just go ahead and seal my oxygen absorbers back up. We'll seal our last jar, and I'll give you some final thoughts. Stay tuned. So here we have, as you see, nice and dry, our almost 1/2 gallon of freeze-dried eggs. Vacuum sealed, we have our wide mouth pint. So what I'll do is I will use out of this, re-vacuum seal each time, and then when I need to top off, I'll use the big jar. Now you may be asking yourself, okay, why are you freeze-drying eggs? Why don't you just use like store eggs or farm eggs? And it is kind of my thought that we may have some availability issues given all that's going on with bird flu and the chicken shortage. And I just want to be prepared because I do enjoy baking, and there's a lot of things that I use eggs in. You can reconstitute these by using 2 tablespoons of the egg powder with 2 tablespoons of water, and that will produce 1 hydrated egg. So I'm very excited to have these on my pantry shelf. The only thing I need to do now with the freeze dryer, now that it's had its 5 minutes of cool down, shall we say, is simply turn it off, and then it will defrost naturally. I don't have another batch going in. Need a little break from freeze drying, guys. So I do have one final thing I want to say. And y'all, I don't like negativity, and I don't say a lot of negative things on my channel, or I try not to. But I got a really crappy comment on my last video, and as much as I'd like to say, oh, it didn't bother me, I just deleted it, it kind of bothered me. And the vast majority of you are so kind and so engaged, and I really appreciate you. But if you're going to put a comment up, and you know who you are, that says boring, stop, you stop, unsubscribe. I don't need negativity on the channel, and if it doesn't add value, I don't know why you're here. So that said, I'm not going to call the person out. They know who they are. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little foray into freeze drying. I hope it was informative for you. I've now got 4 batches under my belt. So what am I thinking about doing next and why? I am going to start making meals that are like, I'll say stews and soups, kind of in that range. And I'm going to try freeze drying those, sealing them in individual or 2 serving packages, Mylar packages, which I could have sealed with Mylar with the eggs, but I didn't think that was the best use of the Mylar bags. And so I will probably bring you along down the road. The first thing I'm going to do is chicken and noodles with peas and onions. I think it will be fabulous. It's one of my son's favorites. I definitely want to have some for his. Y'all, I've been watching a little YouTube today. It's Sunday, and looking at people's visits to Aldi and Walmart and various stores, talking about some of the shortages, the shorter Best By dates on cans, as well as just the dramatic price increase, especially at Aldi. I spoke with my son today, and he was like, wow, Mom, Aldi's always been cheaper, but it's not so much cheaper. Everything has just gone up so much, and I sympathize with him because yes, it has. So even if you're not prepping on this level, I encourage you, take some of your extra money, put some cans on your shelf for a time you may need them. So think canned meat, vegetables, fruit, all of those things that you will eat and will be grateful for should the time come where you actually need them. I thank you today for watching. Please go ahead and smash that like button. Drop me a comment below. What do you think of freeze-dried eggs? Would you try them? Everyone that's tried them says you cannot tell them from fresh, so I'm very encouraged by that as well. So as always, be well, be healthy, be blessed, and I'll see y'all real soon. Take care.